The crystal towers of Nexus Prime stretched into the purple sky like frozen lightning. Emperor Zalthek stood on his golden balcony, looking out at the endless city below. 3,000 years. That was how long his people, the Catherians, had ruled the galaxy. 3,000 years of perfect order and absolute power. Zalthek's skin glowed with a soft blue light. Like all Catherians. His people were tall, thin beings with large black eyes that could see energy patterns invisible to most other species. They were proud of their advanced technology and their perfect society. No one had ever challenged them. No one had ever won against them. "Your Majesty," came a voice behind him. Admiral Vextar entered the throne room, his military uniform covered in medals and honors. He was the commander of the Imperial Navy, the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "What news do you bring, Admiral?" Zalthek asked, not turning around. "Another sector has been marked for expansion, Your Majesty. A small system called Sol. The species there calls themselves humans. They are primitive, barely capable of traveling between stars." Zalthek finally turned around. His black eyes showed no emotion. "How primitive?" "Very primitive, Your Majesty. They fight with metal weapons that shoot metal bullets. Their ships are slow and clumsy. They do not even have a united government on their home world. They still fight wars among themselves." The Emperor nodded slowly. This was the usual pattern. The Catherian Empire found new species, studied them, and then conquered them. It was always the same. The aliens would resist for a short time, then surrender when they realized how hopeless their situation was. "How many ships will you send?" Zalthek asked. "One dreadnought should be enough, Your Majesty. Maybe a few escort ships. Captain Morden can handle this easily." Admiral Vextar walked to a large screen on the wall. He pressed a button and an image appeared. It showed the Sol system. A yellow star with several planets orbiting around it. The third planet was blue and green, covered with clouds. "This is their home world," Vextar explained. "They call it Earth. Population is about 7 billion. They have some space stations and a few colonies on nearby planets. But nothing significant. Their technology?" the Emperor asked. "Rockets, Your Majesty. They still use chemical rockets to reach space. Their fastest ships take months to travel between their own planets. They have nuclear weapons, but only enough to destroy themselves, not threaten us." Zalthek laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Nuclear weapons? How quaint. And their military? Divided into many small groups. They call them nations. These nations fight each other more than they cooperate. Their largest military force has maybe 1,000 ships, and those are tiny compared to our smallest escort vessel." The Emperor walked back to his balcony. Below, millions of Catherians went about their daily lives in perfect order. Floating cars moved in precise patterns through the air. No crime. No war. No chaos. This was what the galaxy looked like under Catherian rule. "Give them the standard ultimatum," Zalthek said. 72 hours to surrender completely. If they refuse, destroy their military and occupy their worlds. "Of course, Your Majesty. Captain Morden is already preparing his ship." Admiral Vextar left the throne room and walked through the crystal corridors of the palace. He had overseen hundreds of these operations. The pattern was always the same. A single Catherian dreadnought would appear in the target system. The aliens would see its massive size and incredible weapons. They would realize they could not win. They would surrender. Sometimes a species would try to fight. This never ended well for them. Catherian weapons could destroy entire planets. Their shields could stop any primitive attack. Their ships were faster than anything else in the galaxy. Vextar reached his office and sat down at his desk. He opened a communication channel to Captain Morden, who was orbiting a nearby planet with his ship. "Captain," Vextar said, "you have new orders." Captain Morden appeared on the screen. He was younger than the Admiral, with bright blue skin and eager black eyes. "Yes, Admiral?" "Sol system. Primitive species, called humans. Standard pacification protocol. Sol system. Standard. Standard pacification protocol. Understood, Admiral. How many ships should I bring? The Sovereign's Edge should be sufficient. Take 2 escort vessels in case they have any surprises. Captain Morden nodded. When do we depart? Immediately. The Emperor wants this finished quickly. The screen went dark. Vextar leaned back in his chair and smiled. Another easy victory for the Empire. Another primitive species that would learn the price of resistance. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Sovereign's Edge, Captain Morden was preparing for departure. His ship was enormous, 3 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. Its crystal hull gleamed with energy patterns that could bend space itself. The ship carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. Navigation, set course for the Sol system, Morden commanded. Course set, Captain, replied his navigation officer. Engine room, prepare for dimensional jump. Engines ready, Captain. Morden looked around his bridge. 20 Catherian officers sat at their stations, monitoring screens filled with data. Everything was perfect, as always. The ship's artificial intelligence handled most of the work, leaving the crew to make strategic decisions. Begin jump sequence, Morden ordered. Space around the Sovereign's Edge began to twist and bend. Reality folded in on itself as the ship entered dimensional space, where distance meant nothing and travel between stars took only hours instead of years. As the ship disappeared from normal space, Captain Morden was already planning the operation. He would arrive at Earth, broadcast the surrender demand, and wait 72 hours. When the humans refused, as they always did, he would destroy their military ships in a brief demonstration. Then, they would surrender, and another world would join the Empire. He had done this dozens of times before. It was routine. Boring, even. These primitive species never learned. They always thought they could fight against the mighty Catherian Empire. They were always wrong. But as the Sovereign's Edge traveled through dimensional space toward the Sol system, Captain Morden had no idea that this time would be different. This time, the primitives had plans of their own. The Sovereign's Edge dropped out of dimensional space at the edge of the Sol system. Captain Morden stood on his bridge, watching the main screen as his sensors mapped the system. Everything looked exactly as the intelligence reports had said. Captain, we are detecting multiple human ships near the 3rd planet, reported his sensor officer. How many? Morden asked. 12 vessels, Captain. They appear to be military ships, but they are very small. The largest is only 200 meters long. Morden nodded. Typical primitive response. They would gather their tiny fleet to make a brave but hopeless stand. Open a communication channel to the planet. The main screen changed to show a blue-green world with white clouds. Cities glowed like tiny lights on the dark side of the planet. Channel open, Captain. Attention, primitive species of the Sol system, Morden began, speaking in perfect English. The Catherian computers had learned human languages in minutes. I am Captain Morden of the Catherian Empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Disable all military vessels. Prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in the destruction of your civilization. The communication channel remained silent for several minutes. Then a human voice responded. The voice was calm, not showing the fear that Morden expected. This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We reject your demands. Earth will defend itself. Morden was surprised by the tone. Most species begged for mercy at this point. Some offered tribute. A few asked for more time. But this human sounded almost confident. Admiral Chen, Morden replied. You do not understand your situation. Look at your sensors. One of our ships has more firepower than your entire fleet. We understand perfectly, Captain Morden. Our answer remains the same. The channel went silent. Morden stared at the screen, confused. In 300 years of military service, he had never heard such a response from a primitive species. Captain, his tactical officer said, the human ships are moving into defensive positions around their planet. Show me. The screen changed to display the tactical situation. 12 small human ships had formed a complex pattern around Earth. They were not bunched together like most primitive fleets. Instead, they were spread out in a careful formation. Interesting, Morden said. They actually seem to understand basic fleet tactics. Should we begin the attack, Captain? Yes. Target the largest human ship first. One plasma lance should be enough. The Sovereign's Edge turned slightly, bringing its massive weapons to bear on the human fleet. Energy began building in the ship's primary weapons system. Firing, announced the weapons officer. A brilliant beam of blue energy shot across space toward the human flagship. The beam struck the ship dead center, and the vessel exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Direct hit, Captain. Target destroyed. But instead of panicking, the remaining human ships immediately changed formation. They spread out even further and began moving in unpredictable patterns. Captain, the human ships are launching missiles, the sensor officer reported. Missiles? Morden laughed. Primitive kinetic weapons against our shields? This should be amusing. Hundreds of small missiles streamed out from the human ships. They moved fast, but not nearly fast enough to threaten a Kytherian vessel. Raise shields and prepare to destroy the missiles, Morden ordered. But something strange happened. Instead of flying straight toward the Sovereign's Edge, the missiles began moving in complex curves. They split into smaller groups and approached from many different angles. Captain, some of these missiles are not targeting us directly. They are releasing electronic interference. Suddenly the bridge screens flickered. Warning lights began flashing. What is happening? Morden demanded. The missiles are using some kind of electronic attack, Captain. Our targeting systems are being disrupted. Impossible. Primitive species do not have electronic warfare capabilities. But the evidence was right in front of him. The human missiles were somehow affecting Kytherian technology. Not enough to cause serious damage, but enough to make targeting more difficult. Destroy those missiles, Morden ordered. I am trying, Captain, but our targeting keeps shifting. Meanwhile, more human missiles were approaching. These ones were different, larger, and moving much faster. Captain, those new missiles are accelerating past our defensive fire. Several missiles slipped through the Sovereign's Edge's defenses and struck the hull. The ship shook slightly. Damage report. Minor damage to hull section 7, Captain. But how did their primitive weapons penetrate our shields? Morden stared at the tactical display in shock. The human missiles had somehow concentrated their attacks on specific shield frequencies, creating tiny gaps that allowed kinetic weapons to pass through. That should be impossible, he muttered. The human ships continued their attack, but now they were doing something even more surprising. They were coordinating perfectly, as if controlled by a single mind. When one ship was targeted, the others would immediately move to support it. When the Sovereign's Edge turned to attack, they would predict the movement and adjust their positions. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from all human ships simultaneously. Put it on screen. Admiral Chen appeared again, but now Morden could see he was on a ship's bridge. Other humans worked at stations behind him, their faces focused but not afraid. Captain Morden, you should know that everything happening here is being transmitted to every human colony and ship in the system. We are recording your weapons, your tactics, and your ship's capabilities. This information is also being sent beyond our system to places you cannot reach. The transmission ended. Morden felt something he had never experienced before. Uncertainty. Captain, what are your orders? Asked his tactical officer. Morden looked at the tactical display. His ship was easily winning the battle. 3 more human ships had been destroyed. But something felt wrong. These humans were fighting like veterans, not primitives. Their technology was crude, but they were using it in ways that no primitive species should understand. Continue the attack. Destroy all human military vessels. The battle continued for 2 more hours. In the end, the result was predictable. The Sovereign's Edge was too powerful and too well protected. All 12 human ships were destroyed, but as Morden looked at his damage report, he felt disturbed. 3 of his escort ships had taken significant damage. His own ship had been hit dozens of times. Some of the human weapons had actually penetrated their defenses. Captain, his communication officer said, we are receiving surrender messages from the planet. Good. Prepare occupation forces. But as the Sovereign's edge moved toward Earth, Captain Morden could not shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The humans had fought too well. They had learned too quickly. And most disturbing of all, they had broadcast everything to unknown locations. What were they planning? 3 years had passed since the conquest of Earth. Admiral Vextar sat in his office on Nexus Prime, reading reports from across the galaxy. The human system had been quiet. Too quiet, perhaps. Captain Morden, now promoted to Admiral after his successful campaign, entered the office. He looked troubled. Admiral Vextar, I need to discuss the Sol system situation with you. What about it? Your reports show everything is under control. The humans are paying their tribute. They follow our laws. There have been no major resistance movements. Morden sat down across from his superior. That is exactly the problem, sir. The humans are too obedient. During the occupation of other worlds, there are always problems. Riots, sabotage, underground movements, but from the humans, nothing. Vextar looked up from his papers. And this concerns you, why? Perhaps they simply learned their lesson. Sir, these are the same humans who fought us for 2 hours with 12 ships against a dreadnought. They showed creativity and tactics that impressed our own officers. Now, they act like defeated sheep. It does not fit their behavior pattern. Admiral Morden, you are seeing problems where none exist. The humans know they cannot win. They have accepted their place in the Empire, but Morden was not convinced. He had been studying reports from Lieutenant Commander Zektar, the intelligence officer assigned to monitor human activities. These reports painted a different picture. Sir, may I share some intelligence findings with you? Vextar nodded, though he looked impatient. Human cargo ships have been traveling to unusual destinations. They claim to be carrying mining equipment to asteroid belt stations, but our sensors detect different cargo signatures. The tonnage numbers do not match their manifest reports. Smuggling is common among occupied species. It is not a military threat. There is more, sir. Several human colonies that we plan to occupy have simply disappeared. Not destroyed. Evacuated. When our ships arrive, they find empty buildings and no traces of where the population went. They probably moved to other colonies. Humans are known to be mobile. Morden pulled out a datapad and placed it on the desk. 6 months ago, we detected unusual energy signatures from the human gas giant they called Jupiter. When we sent a patrol to investigate, our ships found nothing. But the energy readings were similar to our own dimensional drive technology. This got Vextar's attention. Dimensional drive technology? Impossible. Humans do not have the scientific knowledge. That is what we thought, sir. But Lieutenant Commander Zektar believes the humans may have been studying the wreckage from their destroyed ships. Some pieces fell to Earth during the battle. Vextar stood up and walked to his window. Outside, the perfect city of Nexus Prime continued its orderly existence. Even if they salvaged some technology, it would take them decades to understand it. Humans are not that advanced. Sir, with respect, we may be underestimating them again. During the battle 3 years ago, they showed learning speed that surprised us. They adapted to our tactics within hours. Admiral Morden, you are becoming paranoid. The humans are a conquered species. They have no hidden fleets. They have no secret weapons. Our surveillance networks would detect any major military buildup. But Lieutenant Commander Zektar had more disturbing news. He entered the office carrying a thick folder of reports. Admiral Vextar, I have compiled 3 years of anomalous activities in human space. The pattern is becoming clear. What pattern? Vextar asked, his patience wearing thin. Small incidents throughout the galaxy, sir. Patrol ships losing contact for brief periods. Cargo convoys reporting sensor ghosts. Mining stations going silent and then coming back online, with explanations about equipment failures. Zektar opened his folder and spread out star charts. Red dots marked hundreds of locations across multiple sectors. Each incident is small and explainable. But when mapped together, they form a pattern. The incidents cluster around systems with asteroid belts or gas giants. Places where ships could hide. You think the humans are building a secret fleet? Vextar asked. I think they never stopped preparing for war, sir. Their surrender was a strategy to buy time. Morden nodded. It would explain their strange behavior. They are pretending to be defeated while secretly preparing, but Vextar was not convinced. Gentlemen, you are creating conspiracy theories from random events. Space is vast. Strange things happen. Equipment fails. Pirates attack convoys. These are normal occurrences. Sir, Zektar continued, I have one more piece of evidence. Human communication traffic has increased by 300% over the past year. They claim it is entertainment broadcasts and commercial data, but the signal patterns suggest encrypted military communications. Request permission to conduct deep reconnaissance of the Sol system, sir, Morden asked. Request denied, Vextar replied firmly. We have more important concerns than paranoid theories about a defeated enemy. The Drakmarian Confederation is building up forces near our southern border. The crystal miners of Arcturus Prime are demanding independence. I will not waste resources chasing ghosts. Zektar gathered his papers. Sir, what if we are wrong? What if the humans are planning something? Then we will crush them again, just as we did before. One dreadnought was enough to defeat them. If necessary, we can send 10 dreadnoughts. After the two officers left, Vextar returned to his regular reports, but their words stayed with him. Could the humans really be planning something? He dismissed the thought. The Kytherian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. No primitive species could threaten them. Meanwhile, in the outer regions of the Sol system, human activity continued in secret. Deep inside the asteroid belt, massive construction projects were hidden from Kytherian sensors. On the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, research facilities worked around the clock to unlock the secrets of captured alien technology. The humans had learned their most important lesson from the first battle. The Kytherians were powerful, but they were also arrogant. They believed their own superiority so completely that they could not imagine being threatened by primitives. This arrogance was about to become their greatest weakness. Admiral Chen, now the supreme commander of all human forces, stood in a hidden command center built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Around him, thousands of officers coordinated the most ambitious military operation in human history. Status report, Chen ordered. All fleets are in position, Admiral. 2,000 ships ready for simultaneous deployment across 47 target systems. Stealth systems operational? All ships are running silent. Kytherian sensors cannot detect us. Chen looked at the tactical display showing the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. For 3 years, they had been moving into position. For 3 years, they had been waiting. Sir, incoming communication from Earth. The Emperor has authorized the operation. Chen nodded. Send the signal to all fleets. Operation Reversal begins in 24 hours. The day of reckoning was finally at hand. Admiral Vextar was enjoying his morning meal when the alerts began. At first, it was just one alarm from the outer sensor grid. Then 2. Then 10. Within minutes, every alarm on Nexus Prime was screaming. He rushed to the command center, still wearing his sleeping robes. What he saw on the main display made his blood turn cold. Report! He shouted over the noise of alarms. Admiral, we are detecting massive gravitational disturbances throughout the system, his sensor officer reported, her voice shaking. Something large is coming out of dimensional space. How large? How many ships? I cannot get an accurate count, sir. The readings are off our scales. The main display showed space around Nexus Prime. Dozens of swirling energy patterns appeared as ships dropped out of dimensional travel. But these were not Kytherian ships. What am I looking at? Vextar demanded. Unknown vessels, Admiral. The hull configuration does not match any known species in our database. More ships continued to appear. Not just around Nexus Prime, but everywhere. Near the shipyards. Around the defense stations. Close to the Emperor's palace, Lieutenant Commander Zektar ran into the command center. Admiral, we are receiving similar reports from across the Empire. Unknown fleets are appearing in every major system simultaneously. Impossible. Our deep space sensors would have detected any approaching fleet days ago. Sir, these ships are not approaching from normal space. They are coming directly out of dimensional space with no warning. Vextar stared at the display as more ships appeared. They were sleek and angular. Nothing like the bulky crystal ships of the Empire. Strange energy patterns flowed across their dark hulls. Sir, incoming transmission from the lead vessel, the communications officer announced. Put it on screen. The display changed to show a human face. Admiral Vextar recognized him immediately. Admiral Chen, the same human who had fought Captain Morden 3 years ago. Admiral Vextar, Chen said calmly. I believe we have met before, though not in person. How did you get here? Our surveillance showed no human fleet movements. Chen smiled. Your surveillance was looking in the wrong places, Admiral. We have been here for quite some time. That is impossible. Our sensors cannot detect our ships when we do not wish to be found, Chen interrupted. 3 years ago, you taught us a valuable lesson about the importance of superior technology. We have been learning. On Nexus Prime, Emperor Zalthek was experiencing his own shock. His personal guards rushed into his chambers as alarms echoed through the Crystal Palace. Your Majesty, unknown ships have appeared throughout the system. The Emperor activated his personal communicator. Vextar, what is happening? Your Majesty, we are under attack by human forces. They have somehow developed stealth technology and dimensional drive capabilities. Human forces? Impossible. We defeated them years ago. On the main command screen, Admiral Chen continued his transmission. Emperor Zalthek, if you can hear this, I have a message for you. 3 years ago, you offered us a choice: submit or be destroyed. Today, we return that same choice to you. The Emperor's voice crackled through the communication system. Human, you forget your place. We are the Kytherian Empire. We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, and now your reign is over, Chen replied. You have 24 hours to consider our terms. Complete disarmament of your military forces. Withdrawal from all occupied worlds. Reparations to the species you have conquered. Never, the Emperor screamed. Vextar, destroy these primitive upstarts immediately. Admiral Vextar turned to his tactical officer. Battle stations. Prepare all defensive fleets for immediate deployment. But as the Kytherian ships moved into position, something extraordinary happened. More human ships began to appear. Not just dozens, but hundreds. They materialized in perfect formations around every Kytherian vessel. Admiral, the sensor officer said in a whisper. I am detecting over 2,000 human ships in this system alone. 2,000? That is impossible. Sir, reports are coming in from other systems. Human fleets have appeared at all major Imperial installations simultaneously. Estimated total fleet size is over 40,000 ships. Vextar felt his legs give out. He collapsed into his command chair. 40,000 ships? The entire Imperial Navy had only 12,000 vessels, and they were scattered across the galaxy. Sir, the human ships are not attacking, his tactical officer reported. They are just waiting. Admiral Chen's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral Vextar, you may be wondering how we accomplished this. The answer is simple. We learned from you. On the screen, Chen gestured to something off camera. 3 years ago, your Captain Morden left behind pieces of his destroyed escort ships. Our scientists have been studying Kytherian technology ever since, but we did not simply copy it, we improved it. Improved it? Vextar whispered. Your stealth technology can hide one ship. Ours can hide entire fleets. Your dimensional drives can move a single vessel quickly. Ours can coordinate the movement of thousands of ships across the galaxy. Your energy weapons are powerful but simple. Ours adapt to your shield frequencies in real time. The tactical display showed the positions of human ships throughout the Nexus Prime system. They had achieved something impossible. Surrounding the heart of the Empire without being detected, Captain Morden, now aboard his own flagship in a nearby system, was experiencing the same shock. Human ships had appeared around his fleet with no warning. How did they get so close? He demanded. Unknown, sir. Our sensors show no trace of their approach. It is as if they materialized from nothing. Morden remembered his concerns from years earlier. The humans had fought too well. They had learned too quickly. Now he understood what they had been preparing for. Back on Nexus Prime, Emperor Zalthek was screaming orders from his palace. Send reinforcement fleets from all sectors. Mobilize the home defense forces. I want these humans destroyed. But Admiral Vextar knew the truth. The human fleets had not just appeared at Nexus Prime. They had appeared everywhere at once. There were no reinforcements coming because every Imperial fleet was facing the same situation. Your Majesty, Vextar said quietly into his communicator, we have no reinforcements available. Human forces have simultaneously engaged our fleets across the entire empire. For the first time in 3,000 years, Emperor Zalthek felt fear. How is this possible? Admiral Chen answered as if he had heard the question. 3 years ago, you made a mistake, Emperor. You assumed that because we were primitive, we would remain primitive. You assumed that because you had always won, you would always win. You forgot the most important rule of warfare. Never underestimate your enemy. The human ships remained in position, weapons charged but not firing, waiting for the Empire's response. 24 hours. Chen repeated. Consider your answer carefully. This time, the choice is yours. 24 hours passed like a nightmare for Emperor Zalthek. He had spent those hours in his war room, surrounded by his top generals and admirals, trying to find a way out of the impossible situation. Status of our fleets? He demanded for the 100th time. General Kex Moore, his military advisor, looked exhausted. Your Majesty, every major system is surrounded by human forces. Our ships are outnumbered at least 3-1 in every engagement zone. What about the outer colonies? Surely some fleets can break through? The humans have blocked all major hyperspace routes, Your Majesty. Any ship that tries to jump to dimensional space is immediately intercepted. Admiral Vextar entered the war room carrying the latest reports. His face showed the strain of the past day. Your Majesty, we have received reports from across the Empire. The humans have not attacked, but they have made their presence known. They are jamming our communications and disrupting our supply lines. They want us to attack first, Emperor Zalthek said bitterly. They want us to appear as the aggressors. Your Majesty, Vextar said quietly, I recommend we consider their terms. The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. Never. I will not be the Emperor who surrendered the galaxy to primitives. Your Majesty, these are no longer primitives. Their technology is now superior to ours. Impossible. Lieutenant Commander Zektar entered with new intelligence reports. Your Majesty, we have analyzed the human ships. Their hull materials are unknown to us. Their weapon systems use principles we do not understand. Their coordination suggests artificial intelligence far beyond our capabilities. How did they advance so quickly? The Emperor demanded. They learned from us, Your Majesty, but they also learned from every other species we conquered. For 3 years, they have been studying the technology of hundreds of different civilizations. They combined the best of everything into something new. As the deadline approached, Admiral Chen's voice echoed through every Catherian communication system across the galaxy. Emperor Zalthek, your time is up. What is your answer? The Emperor stood in his throne room, looking out at the human ships that surrounded his capital. For 3,000 years, no enemy fleet had dared approach Nexus Prime. Now he could see hundreds of them with his own eyes. I reject your terms, he shouted into the communicator. The Catherian Empire bows to no one. Then you have chosen destruction, Chen replied. I am sorry it has come to this. The human ships began to move. But instead of attacking randomly, they demonstrated something that horrified every Catherian military observer. They moved as a single organism, thousands of ships across dozens of star systems, all coordinated perfectly. The battle began at exactly the same moment everywhere in the galaxy. Admiral Vextar watched from his flagship as human ships engaged the home defense fleet. What he saw defied everything he knew about space combat. The humans did not fight ship against ship, as the Catherians always had. Instead, small groups of human vessels swarmed individual Catherian ships, attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. "Admiral, the enemy is using some kind of new weapon," his tactical officer reported. "Our shields are being penetrated." "How?" "Unknown, sir. It appears they are firing kinetic rounds at significant fractions of light speed." Vextar watched in amazement as human weapons tore through Catherian defenses. But it was not just their weapons that were superior. Their tactics were completely different. "Sir, the enemy ships are sharing targeting data in real time. When we damage one ship, the others immediately adjust their attack patterns to compensate. They are fighting like a hive mind," Vextar whispered. Meanwhile, Captain Morden was experiencing the same shock in his sector. His battle group of 12 ships was being attacked by over 30 human vessels. "Captain, our main weapons array has been destroyed. Return fire. All ships. Concentrate on the nearest human vessel." But when the Catherian ships focused their fire on one human ship, the others immediately moved to protect it. Force fields appeared that deflected Catherian weapons. Electronic jamming disrupted targeting systems. "Captain, it is as if they know our tactics before we implement them." Morden realized the terrible truth. They have been watching us for 3 years. They know how we fight better than we do. Across the galaxy, the pattern was the same. Catherian ships that had ruled space for millennia were being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought unlike anything they had ever faced. The most devastating aspect was the human weapons technology. They fired metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. These projectiles could punch through Catherian energy shields, as if they did not exist. "How are they accelerating kinetic rounds to such velocities?" Emperor Zalthek demanded from his bunker, deep beneath the palace. "We believe they are using gravitational manipulation, Your Majesty," General Kexmore replied. "They may have learned to weaponize our own dimensional drive technology." "Status of our fleets? 60% casualties across all theaters, Your Majesty. The remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." "Retreat? The Catherian Empire does not retreat." But as reports continued to arrive, it became clear that retreat was no longer possible. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and completely unpredictable. Admiral Vextar's flagship shook under enemy fire. Half his bridge crew was dead or wounded. "Admiral, we have lost all escort vessels. Main engines are offline. Weapons systems are at 20% capacity." Vextar looked around his ruined bridge. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen a Catherian ship take such damage. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet commander. Put it through." Admiral Chen appeared on the damaged screen. "Admiral Vextar, your ship is disabled. I offer you the chance to surrender with honor." "Surrender?" Vextar could barely speak the word. "Your empire is finished, Admiral. In 6 hours we have destroyed over half your fleet. The rest cannot continue fighting. End this before more lives are lost." Vextar looked at his tactical display. The truth was undeniable. Across the galaxy, Catherian forces were being systematically defeated. The humans had achieved the impossible. They had outmatched the Empire in every aspect of warfare. "What are your terms?" he asked quietly. "Complete disarmament. Withdrawal from all occupied worlds. Reparations to conquered species. In return, your people will be allowed to live in peace." Emperor Zalthek's voice crackled through the damaged communication system. "Vextar, do not surrender. Fight to the last ship." But Vextar had seen enough. He thought of the thousands of young Catherian officers who had died in the past 6 hours. He thought of the families who would never see their loved ones return home. "I surrender," he said. Across the galaxy, one by one, Catherian commanders made the same choice. The empire that had ruled for 3,000 years was broken in a single day. Later, as Vextar sat in his quarters aboard Chen's flagship, he asked the question that haunted him. "How did you do it? How did you defeat us so completely?" Chen sat across from him, no longer wearing the expression of a military commander. Now he looked tired, sad even. "You taught us everything we needed to know," Chen said. 3 years ago, your captain showed us your weapons, your tactics, your technology. But more importantly, you showed us your weakness. Our weakness? Arrogance. You believed you were superior to every other species. You stopped learning, stopped growing, stopped adapting. For 3,000 years, you fought the same way against enemies who never changed. We spent 3 years studying everyone you had conquered, learning from their defeats, combining their knowledge with ours. Chen stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. The galaxy is full of intelligent species, with different strengths. Your mistake was thinking that intelligence belonged only to you. Admiral Vextar nodded slowly. The Catherian Empire had fallen not because humans were superior, but because humans had been willing to learn from everyone, including their enemies. The age of Catherian dominance was over. A new age was beginning, one where no single species would rule through fear and superior firepower alone. The day the Empire fell would be remembered forever, not just as humanity's victory, but as the day the galaxy learned that cooperation could defeat any tyranny.